Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the final part of the Principles of Design series. So, if you have been watching along all the 7 parts, then congratulations, you have made it to the final part. And if you're coming to this video directly, then I will highly recommend you to go and check out the first 7 parts so that you can understand this video more clearly. Okay. And in this video, we're going to be talking about how to use and where to use the different principles that you have learned so far. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So by now we have understood the 7 principles, and if we quickly recap them, they are principle of balance, principle of contrast, principle of hierarchy, principle of emphasis, scale and proportion, repetition, and principle of unity. And at this moment, you might be feeling like Thanos, who has collected all the infinity stones, and now you need the infinity gauntlet to wield the power of these principles. By that, I mean that you need to understand how to use these principles. You understood these in silos, but now how to use and combine these so that you can use them in your own designs. Okay. So when to use these principles and how to use this principle is what we're going to understand in this video. Now, if you know that these principles can be a little confusing because a lot of them lies in the gray area of each other. So if you tend to push the boundary of one of the principle, you will end up in another principle. So for example, if you use balance, if you use symmetric balance, and if you overuse symmetric balance, then let's say you have all the elements similar looking and use symmetric balance, then you sort of start getting into the boundary of unity. And similarly, if you use repetition, use similar elements and you keep on repeating them, if you overdo them, you will end up again in the principle of unity. In the same way, if you, for example, for hierarchy, you need to build contrast, right? So with contrast, you need to build hierarchy. And if you give something a disproportionate contrast, then you will end up in emphasis, right? So again, if you see, even contrast is now linked with two other principles. So if you push the boundaries of one or the other principle, you'll end up in the gray area. So, and these gray areas are not really defined and how to figure it out. So most of them are lying into a gray area. So that becomes really challenging to understand which principle to use where. Okay. And that's the reason, since they are now lying in the gray areas of each other, you'll rarely be using only one principle standalone. So hardly there will be any case where you're using only one principle and defining the entire page or an app product, right? You'll be using combination of these principles to achieve the better result, to achieve the better desired result for your designs. Okay. So you'll be using combination of these results. Now let's quickly see some examples, understand this entire principle, how can you use combination of these principles. So for example, here I'm taking an example of unity and contrast. So you're using these two principles to create a design. And this sort of unity and contrast, both principles, the combination is very ideal for pages which have like a lot of reading material, blogs, newspaper apps, but you can use it in many other places as well. I've explained that as well here, but typically you use them for like apps or screens which have a lot of reading material. So here, if you see the first two screens, they are from Medium. And what Medium has done is, if you see this entire thing is like following the unity principle. Everything is same. Nothing is screaming out of attention, screaming out for attention, right? Everything is like subdued. Everything, because they want you to read this. Nothing. They don't want anything to pop out. So that's why they have used the principle of unity here. But just to break the monotony, just to make things clear for scanning, they've also used hierarchy. So if you see, you have bigger, bolder text here, which is separating the headings from the body text. So they are using contrast, and they're using also in, unity. Unity is used in the background, but they're also using contrast just to break the monotony and make the scanning easier. That's how you use unity plus contrast combination. Here on the second screen also, if you see, all of these elements are similar. None of them is highlighted more than the other. So this is following the principle of unity. All of them are exactly same elements. Okay. But just to break the monotony, again, they have used images here, which I have explained earlier, have a higher contrast than the text. So now, just to break the monotony, just to make the design not look so mundane, they have used images as well, and which is giving a very nice effect. And here's the third screen. Third screen is from Hitspace. And if you see, all of these selection cards are same. They don't want to highlight one over the other. But what they have used, they have again used images just to make sure that it grabs a little bit of attention, and it breaks that mundane, so only read only sort of like a design. So this is how you make the design a little bit playful while following the principles as well. Again, the third example is again from Unity. Now if you see here, they've used all of these selection pills in the similar way. So none of them is just specifically popping out, but what they have done is they have added a background below, this orange yellow background, just to make things a little bit more popped up. So they're using infinity, but they're also trying to add a little bit of contrast to things so that things become more energetic or more playful and fun here. So this is how Headspace is using it. And then the last example is from Spotify. And if you see, all of these elements are exactly again the same. If you see, all these elements are exactly same. The only thing they want to highlight is the play button. So that has been given more contrast. I would say they have used actually emphasis. They have they've given more contrast to it so that it becomes emphasized. So that's how they're using unity and contrast combination. If you also see, there also is a hierarchy that is being used, which is very obvious because you read from top to bottom and left to right. So I'm not particularly called out that here, but that is obviously the case. So if you want something to be really selected first, then you keep it at first. So for example, here in this card, they want to promote maybe yoga first. So yoga is on the top, or maybe the most chosen category. So hierarchy has also been used, but mainly unity and contrast is used in this example. Let's move on to the next example, which is the combination of balance, hierarchy, and emphasis. And these are sort of ideal for pages which have a primary call to action, CTA, or a primary intent. So in the first example from Spotify, if you see, so they are trying to first of all create a balance. So the page is entirely balanced. None of the page feels heavy. So none of the part of the page, neither top, neither the bottom feels heavy. On the top, you have a very high contrast element, and then below you have these bunch of selections, but they have spread it out across the screen vertically so that it just looks balanced. And they're also following hierarchy. So the first thing they want you to notice is this album art, right? Which is the really important thing. You want to know what music is being played. And then you have bunch of controls related to that, and then you have the rest of the playlist below. So they're also using hierarchy here. Balance is always used, and then they're also using emphasis because they want you to highlight this one primary CTA, which is the play button. Okay. Similarly, if you go to the next screen, which is from Headspace, again they are using really nice way to balance the entire layout. If you see if I just draw a center line here, right, almost center line here, you'll have a bunch of controls here, you have the text and everything here, and then you have the graphic evenly distributed. So this design is entirely balanced, and you have the play button in this exact center. And they also wanted to emphasize a few things. So the only thing that they want to emphasize here is the play option. So that play option is given a bigger and bolder treatment. That's how they're also using emphasis. In the next screen, this is a Airbnb screen. And if you see, they have just balanced out the entire page with this date selector. Okay. And just to emphasize a few things, which is basically you can go next. The next button is treated in a different way, slightly better contrast, right? And yeah, so this is the next button. And then the next screen is from Uber. And if you see here also, they have also tried to balance this entire screen by adding a nice illustration on top, and then adding some really nice typography, bigger, bolder typography here, and then some text here, and then you have the CTAs, right? So the entire layout is getting balanced because of this, because the CTAs have like a higher contrast and the images have the higher contrast. So they're trying to balance the entire page, but they're also trying to create a emphasis on the CTA. So that CTA is given the bigger, bolder treatment in the bottom. Actually, the last one is from Twitter. And if you see, this is a bottom sheet that has opened up. So we'll just look at the bottom sheet. And here also they've tried to fill the entire vertical space that is given to the bottom sheet. And if I just draw a center line in the bottom sheet, if you see, you have like the illustration here, you have the text here, and then you have the CTAs, right? And they also want you to emphasize more on the CTA. So the CTA is given a bigger, bolder treatment. And they have just very nicely and clearly filled out the entire space. They could have just left the illustration and they could have just used text and the button, but they have not done that. Just to balance these things out, balance the entire bottom sheet, they have given this nice illustration as well. So that's how you use balance, hierarchy, and emphasis in one screen. And yeah, let's move on to our last example. So this last example is using repetition and emphasis. They're also using a lot of other principles, but these are the primary principles that is being used, and very ideal for immersive contents. Okay. So for example, if you see on Tinder, you have this big bolder image of the person, right, which you are swiping off. So you have like these really big immersive, I would say almost immersive sort of experience here. And they're using repetition because they're using the same sort of element pattern on all of their pages. Everywhere there's just swipes. So they're using the repetition principle where you are getting familiarized with the swiping action. So if you go to Tinder, you immediately know that you have to swipe left or right. That's the only thing you have to do. Or you also have to swipe up as of now to super like something. So Tinder is using this repetitive element everywhere so that you understand this is a Tinder app. And they're also emphasizing on a few actions. If you see, they are emphasizing on these actions below. So they are given a better or different treatment. They're highlighted more. I don't think, I won't say that it's a very nice way of doing it, but now they have made it like a norm. So they are highlighting this different actions on the page. So that's how they're using repetition and emphasis. Similarly for Bumble as well, the repetition is this yellow shade. They've used it on every page. Every other page they are using this yellow shade. Even the CTA is on the same thing. So they're using this yellow shade as a repetitive element so that you understand this is a Bumble app, because very characteristic of Bumble. And what they're also doing, just to emphasize each thing on the page, they're also giving nice CTAs. So for example, here is a send message option. You have been matched. So the primary information is also getting emphasized. Similarly, super likes and other things are also there. So they're also emphasizing it. They're repeating the brand color, and they're also emphasizing certain elements that needs to be done on the page. And the third example is here from TikTok. And TikTok, again, it's a fully immersive content, full page view. So they're using the same sort of behavior. Everything TikTok is just swipe up. So they're using that same element everywhere. So you know it's TikTok. And then on top of it, they're also highlighting a few actions. So in some pages, this following option is the main thing that they want to highlight. So that only that option gets highlighted accent color plus button, right? If you see here. So that's how they do it. So that's how they're emphasizing a few things, but they're also using repetition everywhere. There are a lot of other things that they are also using in other pages, but for now I'm picking up this combination. So yeah, these were the three examples. I hope you understood the combinations. And what you can also do as a simple practice, you can go to different apps and websites that you like and just figure out what are the combination of principles that they have used. They might be using a lot of principles, but you have to figure out what are the most prominent ones that they are using. Okay. And always remember, principles are just guidelines. So that's why they are called principles. They're just guidelines and they're not hard and fast rules. They're meant to create better design. They're just here to help you create better design so that you create more better designs or but better product for your customers, right? So you can just always follow them, and they're not here for restricting. So as I explained, right, you can combine different principles and create something unique out of your own, like the way Bumble is doing, right? Using yellow colors everywhere. So that's not for restricting, but they're just here to guide you to create better designs for your consumers. And yeah, I hope you understood the entire series. If you like the series, just let me know in the comments so that I can bring more such series, and where we'll just talk about fundamentals, not just prototyping, just fundamentals. So let me know if you want such more series around the different laws of UX that we have and other different terminologies that we use in product design cycle. So I can talk about them as well. And before we leave, before we end today's video, here's a simple quiz for you. So what are the principles used in e-commerce apps? So e-commerce apps like Amazon, Walmart, Flipkart, Myntra, all of these different e-commerce app, wherever, from whichever country you're watching, whatever the e-commerce app popular in your region, what are the principles that they are using? Name the app and then name the principles that they are primarily using in which page. So you can comment your answers below. Primarily talk about the home page. So comment your favorite e-commerce app as well as the principles that they're using mostly on the home page. So I'll have a look and I'll see what all you have to come up with. So that's it, guys. That's it for today's video. I hope you understood the video. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. So keep following the channel, and I'll be bringing more videos, tutorial videos, and more learning material really soon. So take care. Bye-bye. And I'll see you in my next video.